Chapter 4. The Guru. It has always been taught that in order to attain realization, not only practice but also a guide is needed. In this, as in all things, Bhagwan gave the doctrine its deepest meaning. In fact, it became essentially the same as the Christian doctrine of the Christ in you, or the Buddha's doctrine of the Buddha mind, which is to be realized in oneself. D. Bhagwan has said that without the grace of the Guru one cannot attain the self. What precisely does he mean by this? What is this Guru? B. From the standpoint of the path of knowledge, it is the supreme state of the self. It is different from the ego, which you call yourself. D. Then, if it is the supreme state of my own self, in what sense does Bhagwan mean that I cannot reach it without the grace of the Guru? B. The ego is the individuality and is not the same as the Lord of all. When it approaches the Lord with sincere devotion, he graciously assumes name and form and takes it to himself. Therefore, they say that the Guru is none other than the Lord. He is the human embodiment of divine grace. This would seem to mean then that the Guru is the Lord or the Self manifested outwardly in human form, and that this outward manifestation is necessary. But the questioner, in the present instance, was not convinced of this, since he knew that Bhagwan himself had had no human Guru, and that there are other cases on record also, especially among the founders of religions. He therefore continued. D. But there are some who seem to have had no human Guru at all. B. True. In the case of certain great souls, God reveals himself as the light of the light from within. It occasionally happened that some questioner would openly raise the objection that Bhagwan himself had not a Guru, and in such cases, his reply would be that the Guru need not necessarily take human form. Some who knew his teaching at second hand suggested that he did not hold it necessary to have a Guru, and explained the lack of explicit initiation in that way. But he rejected this suggestion unequivocally. S.S. Cohen has recorded a conversation on this subject with Dilip Kumar Roy, the celebrated musician of Sri Aurobindo Ashram. Dilip. Some people report Maharishi to deny the need of a Guru. Others say the reverse. What does the Maharishi say? B. I have never said that there is no need for a Guru. Dilip. Sri Aurobindo often refers to you as having had no Guru. B. That depends on what you call Guru. He need not necessarily be in human form. Dattatreya had 24 Gurus, the elements, and so on. That means that any form in the world was his Guru. Guru is absolutely necessary. The Upanishads say that none but a Guru can take a man out of the jungle of mental and sense perceptions. So there must be a Guru. Dilip. I mean a human Guru. The Maharshi didn't have one. B. I might have had at some time or other. And didn't I sing hymns to Arunachala? What is a Guru? Guru is God or the Self. First a man prays to God to fulfill his desires. Then a time comes when he does not pray for the fulfillment of a desire, but for God himself. So God appears to him in some form or other, human or non-human, to guide him as a Guru in answer to his prayer. It was only when some visitor brought up the subject that Sri Bhagwan himself had not had a Guru that he explained that the Guru need not necessarily take on a human form, and it was understood that this referred to very rare cases. I shall return to this question later, but wish to immediately consider the implication of the saying that God, Guru, and Self are the same. In the ordinary sense of the word, a Guru is one who has been invested with the right to initiate disciples and prescribe a spiritual discipline for them. And, in this case, a proper investiture is necessary to validate his actions as a Guru, just as proper ordination is necessary to validate the religious rites performed by a priest. A mass said by a duly ordained priest would be valid, whereas one said by a man of greater moral integrity and intellectual power who was not an ordained priest would not, and in exactly the same way. The genuineness of a Guru and validity of his initiation and discipline is normally dependent rather on his legitimate investiture as the successor to a line of Gurus than on his own inherent attainments. Bhagwan was little interested in this interpretation of the word Guru, but he did accept it when asked. D. Can one derive any benefit from repeating incantations picked up casually without being initiated into them? B. No. One must be initiated into them and authorized to use them. Bhagwan then illustrated this saying by the following story. A king once visited his minister at the latter's house. There, he was told that the minister was busy with his incantations. The king accordingly waited for him, and, when he was free to meet him, asked him what incantation it was. The minister told him that it was the Gayatri. The king then asked the minister to initiate him into the use of it, but the latter declared that he was unable to. Thereupon, the king learnt it from someone else, and the next time he met the minister, he repeated it to him and asked him whether it was right. The minister replied that the incantation was right, but that it was not right for him to say it. The king asked why. The minister called an attendant who was standing nearby and told him to arrest the king. The order was not obeyed. The minister repeated it, and still it was not obeyed. The king then flew into a temper and ordered the attendant to arrest the minister, which he immediately did. The minister laughed and said that that was the explanation the king had asked for. How? The king asked. Because the order was the same and the executive was the same, but the authority was different. When I pronounced the order, there was no effect, but when you did it, the effect was immediate. It is the same with incantation. Normally, however, when Bhagwan said Guru, he meant something far greater than this, something different not in degree but in kind. He meant Sat Guru or Guru Dev, and that too in its highest meanings as nothing less than one who has realized his identity with the self and abides therein constantly. D. What are the distinguished characteristics of a Guru by which one can recognize him? B. The Guru is one who at all times abides in the profound depths of the self. He never sees any difference between himself and others, and is quite free from the idea that he is the enlightened or the liberated one, while those around him are in bondage or the darkness of ignorance. His self-possession can never be shaken under any circumstances, and he is never perturbed. D. What is the essential nature of Upadesha, or spiritual instruction given by the Guru? B. The word Upadesha literally means restoring an object to its proper place, the mind of the disciple having become differentiated from its true and primal state of pure being, which is the self, and which is described in the scriptures as Sat Chit Anand, being, consciousness, bliss, slips away therefrom, and assuming the form of thought, constantly pursues objects of sense gratification. Therefore, it is assailed by the vicissitudes of life and becomes weak and dispirited. Upadesha consists in the Guru restoring it to its primal state and preventing it from slipping away from the state of pure being, of absolute identity with the self, or, in other words, the being of the Guru. The word can also be understood as meaning to present an apparently distant object to close view. That is to say, it consists in the Guru showing the disciple what he had considered as distant and different from himself to be immediate and identical with himself. D. If, as this implies, the real being of the Guru is identical with that of the disciple, why have the scriptures categorically declared that however great powers one may attain, he cannot attain self-realization without the grace of the Guru? B. It is true that the being of the Guru is identical with that of the disciple. However, it is very seldom that a person can realize his true being without the grace of the Guru. B. What is your idea of a Guru? You think of him in human shape, as a body of certain dimensions, complexion, and so on. A disciple, after realization, once said to his Guru, I now realize that you dwelled in my innermost heart as the one reality in all my countless births, and have now come before me in human shape and lifted this veil of ignorance. What can I do for you in return for such a great benefit? And the Guru replied, You need not do anything. It is enough if you remain as you are in your true state. That is the truth about Guru. Bhagwan often explained that the divine guide, the true Guru, is in one's heart as well as being manifested outwardly. While the outward Guru turns one's mind inwards, the inner Guru pulls from within. Even one's environment does not happen by accident. The Guru creates the conditions necessary for one's quest. D. What is the grace of the Guru? B. The Guru is the Self. At some time, a man grows dissatisfied with his life and not content with what he has, seeks the satisfaction of his desires through prayer to God. His mind is gradually purified until he longs to know God, more to obtain His grace than to satisfy worldly desires. Then God's grace begins to manifest. God takes the form of a Guru and appears to the devotee, teaches him the truth, and moreover, purifies his mind by association with him. The devotee's mind thus gains strength and is then able to turn inward. By meditation, it is further purified until it remains calm without the least ripple. That calm expanse is the Self. The Guru is both outer and inner. From outside, he gives a push to the mind to turn inward, while from inside, he pulls the mind towards the Self and helps in quieting it. That is the grace of the Guru. There is no difference between God, Guru, and Self. D. In the Theosophical Society, they meditate in order to seek masters to guide them. B. The master is within. Meditation is meant to remove the ignorant idea that he is only external. If he were some stranger whom you awaited, he would be bound to disappear also. What would be the use of a transient being like that? But as long as you think you are separate or that you are the body, so long is the outer master also necessary, and he will appear as if with a body. When the wrong identification of yourself with the body ceases, the master will be found to be none other than the self. D. Will the Guru help us to know the self through initiation and so on? B. Does the Guru hold you by the hand and whisper in your ear? You may imagine him to be what you are yourself. Because you think you have a body, you think that he has also, and that he will do something tangible to you. His work lies within in the spiritual realm. D. How is the Guru found? B. God, who is immanent, in his grace, takes pity on the loving devotee and manifests himself according to the devotee's development. The devotee thinks that he is a man and expects a relationship as between two physical bodies. But the Guru, who is God, or the Self Incarnate, works from within, helps the man to see his mistakes and guides him in the right path until he realizes the self within. D. What should the devotee do then? B. He has only to act according to the words of the Master and work inwardly. The Master is both within and without, so he creates conditions to drive you inward and at the same time prepares the interior to drag you to the center. Thus, he gives a push from without and exerts a pull from within, so that you may be fixed at the center. You think that the world can be conquered by your own efforts? When you are frustrated externally and are driven inwards, you feel, oh, there is a power higher than man. The ego is a very powerful elephant which cannot be brought under control by any creature less powerful than a lion, which, in this instance, is none other than the Guru, whose very looks make the elephant-like ego tremble and die. You will know in due course that your glory lies where you cease to exist. In order to gain that state, you should surrender yourself. Then the Master sees that you are in a fit state to receive guidance, and he guides you. What is the significance of saying that the Guru is the manifestation of God or Self? Bhagwan spoke always from the point of view of non-duality, and from this point of view, the disciple is also guided thus. The only difference is that the Guru has realized it, and the disciple has not. B. So long as you seek self-realization, the Guru is necessary. Guru is the Self. Take Guru to be the real Self and yourself to be the individual Self. The disappearance of this sense of duality is the removal of ignorance. So long as duality persists in you, the Guru is necessary. Because you identify yourself with the body, you think the Guru too is the body. You are not the body, nor is the Guru. You are the Self, and so is the Guru. This knowledge is gained by what you call self-realization. You mistake the body for the Guru, but the Guru himself does not mistake that. He is the formless self that is within you. He appears outwardly only to guide you. A curious paradox arises with the perfect Guru, the self-realized man in constant conscious identity with the self. For the very reason that he is the complete and perfect Guru, he will not call himself a Guru or call any his disciples, since that would be an affirmation of relationship and therefore of duality. Though he instructs his disciples, yet he does not call himself their Guru, realizing as he does that Guru and disciple are mere conventions born of Maya or total illusion. And indeed, Bhagwan initiated his disciples through silence, or in a dream when at distance, or by look when they were in his bodily presence. But he did not call them his disciples, or gave the formal initiation that postulates duality. He watched over them constantly, prescribed a discipline for them verbally, or guided them to it by the power of his silent grace. But he did not call himself their Guru. D. Isn't grace the gift of the Guru? B. God, grace, and Guru are all synonymous and are both eternal and immanent. Isn't the self already within? Is it for the Guru to bestow it by his look? If a Guru thinks so, he does not deserve that name. The books say there are many kinds of initiation. They also say that the Guru performs various rites with fire, water, incantations, and so on, and calls such fantastic performances initiation, as if the disciple becomes ripe only after such processes were gone through by the Guru. If the individual is sought, he is nowhere to be found. Such is the Guru. Such is Dakshinamurti. What did he do? He sat silent. The disciples appeared before him. He maintained silence, and their doubts were dispelled, which means they lost their individual identities. Jnana, or spiritual knowledge, is that silent understanding and not the verbal definitions that are usually given for it. Silence is the most potent form of work. However vast and emphatic the scriptures may be, they fail in their effect. The Guru is quiet, and peace prevails in all. His silence is vaster and more emphatic than all the scriptures put together. These questions arise because of the feeling that, in spite of having been here so long, heard so much, striven so hard, you have not gained anything. The process that goes on inside you is not apparent to you. In fact, the Guru is always within you. Not all felt the grace, the power of silent initiation immediately, but Bhagwan reassured them. D. It is said that one look of a Mahatma is enough, that idols, pilgrimages, and so on are not so effective. But I have been here for 3 months and still do not know how I have been benefited by the look of the Maharshi. B. The look has a purifying effect. Purification cannot be visualized. Just as a piece of coal takes a long time to ignite, and a piece of charcoal a shorter time, while a heap of gunpowder is ignited instantaneously, so it is with different types of men coming in contact with a Mahatma. Incidentally, the devotee who raised this question stayed on and became one of the staunchest and most devoted of all. Complete faith in the Guru was necessary, but as explained in the previous chapter, effort was also necessary. D. After leaving this ashramam in October, I was aware of Bhagwan's peace enfolding me for about 10 days. All the time, while busy with work, there was an undercurrent of that peace of unity. It was almost like the dual consciousness while half asleep in a dull lecture. Then it faded out entirely and the old stupidities came instead. Work leaves no time for separate meditation. Is the constant reminder, I am, and trying to feel this while actually at work enough? B. It will become constant when the mind is strengthened. Repeated practice strengthens the mind, and such a mind is capable of holding on to the current. Then, whether you're engaged in work or not, the current remains unaffected and uninterrupted. It often happened that the disciple saw no improvement in himself despite the effort, but he was told to have faith in the Guru. The process might not be visible to himself, and improvement might be the greatest when least apparent. He evoked no spectacular changes in the devotees, for such changes may be a superstructure without foundation and collapse later. Indeed, it sometimes happened that a devotee would grow despondent, seeing no improvement at all in himself, and would complain that he was not progressing at all. In such cases, Bhagwan might offer consolation or might retort, "How do you know? There is no progress." And he would explain that it is the Guru, not the disciple, who sees the progress made. It is for the disciple to carry on perseveringly with his work, even though the structure being raised may be out of sight of the mind. There were some who desired a definite statement that Bhagwan was a Guru, but this he would not make. Mr. Ivan Wentz, the well-known writer on Tibetan yoga, asked whether Bhagwan initiated disciples, but Bhagwan sat silent, giving no reply. Then one of the devotees took it on himself to answer that the Maharishi does not regard any as being outside himself, and therefore none can be disciples to him. His grace is all-pervading and is bestowed in silence on any deserving individual. Bhagwan heard the explanation and did not reject it. Sometimes he would explain that the Guru-disciple relationship was necessary from the point of view of the disciple, since the latter viewed things from the standpoint of duality, and therefore the disciple would affirm that so and so was his Guru, although the Guru would not affirm that the other was his disciple. D. Bhagwan says he has no disciples. B. Yes. D. He also says that a Guru is necessary if one wishes to attain liberation. B. Yes. D. What then must I do? Has my sitting here all these years been just a waste of time? Must I go and look for some Guru in order to receive initiation, seeing that Bhagwan says he is not a Guru? B. What do you think brought you here such a long distance and made you remain here so long? Why do you doubt? If there had been any need to seek a Guru elsewhere, you would have gone away long ago. The Guru or Jnani sees no difference between himself and others. For him all are Jnanis, all are one with himself. So how can a Jnani say that such and such is his disciple? But the unliberated one sees all as multiple. He sees all as different from himself. So to him, the Guru-disciple relationship is a reality. For him there are 3 ways of initiation: by touch, look, and silence. Sri Bhagwan here gave the disciple to understand that his way was by silence, as he has to many on other occasions. D. then Bhagwan does have disciples. B. As I said, from Bhagwan's point of view, there are no disciples, but from that of the disciple, the grace of the Guru is like an ocean. If he comes with a cup, he will get only a cupful. It is no use complaining of the niggardliness of the ocean. The bigger the vessel, the more he will be able to carry. It is entirely up to him. When the devotee pressed him once more for a confirmation, he turned to the attendant and said humorously, "Let him get a document from the sub-registrar and take it to the office and get the office stamp on it." In the following conversation, he implied clearly enough that he was to be regarded as the visible Guru. D. Can Sri Bhagwan help us to realize the self? B. Help is always here. D. Then there is no need to ask questions. I do not feel the ever-present help. B. Surrender, and you will find it. D. I am always at your feet. Will Bhagwan give some updesh to follow? Otherwise, how can I get the help living 600 miles away? B. The Sadguru is within. D. The Sadguru is necessary to guide me to understand that fact. B. The Sadguru is within you. D. I want a visible Guru. B. That visible Guru says that he is within. It was in keeping with the purely spiritual nature of Bhagwan's initiation and guidance that he was averse to touching his disciples or being touched by them. In the further part of the talk just quoted, the devotee requests, D. Will the Sadguru place his hand on my head to assure me of his help? Then I shall have the consolation of knowing that his promise will be fulfilled. In such cases, Bhagwan was apt either to remain silent or to turn it into a joke. On this occasion, he took the latter course. B. Next, you will be asking me for a bond and filing a suit if you imagine that the help is not forthcoming. It may be said by some readers of this book that this doctrine of God manifested as Guru was all right for those who had the good fortune to meet Bhagwan in his lifetime. But what of those who seek a Guru now? There are Gurus to be found, although the appearance on earth of a perfect Sadguru such as Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharshi, a Jivan Mukt living in constant conscious identity with the self, is a very rare thing. D. How can one know whether a particular person is competent to be a Guru? B. By the peace of mind you feel in his presence and by the respect you feel for him. D. And if it turns out that he is not competent, what will be the fate of the disciple who has implicit faith in him? B. The fate of each one will be according to his merit. But if the Guru has not attained the Supreme Self, can he be regarded as a manifestation of God or the Self? In a way, he can. The disciple himself is the Self, although ignorant of his true identity. The entire outside world manifests tendencies and possibilities in himself, and among these, the person who functions as Guru for him manifests the possibility of divine guidance, even without full awareness. There is, however, another possibility also, and that is continued guidance by Bhagwan. It will be recalled that Bhagwan confirmed that the Guru need not necessarily take human form. He sometimes added that this happened only in rare cases. He himself had no human Guru. Just as, with Self Enquiry, he created a new path suitable to the conditions of the modern world, a path that can be followed without any outward forms, invisibly, while conforming to the outer conditions of modern life, so also he brought to men the possibility of silent, formless initiation, requiring no physical guru. In his lifetime, initiation was by look or silence. He often confirmed that the truest Updesha or spiritual instruction was by silence. The highest form of grace is silence. It is also the highest spiritual instruction. All other modes of instruction are derived from silence and are therefore secondary. Silence is the primary form. If the Guru is silent, the seeker's mind gets purified by itself. The disciples of Bhagwan have found that the silent instruction continues as before. Others who have never met him in his lifetime have been drawn to him and begun to follow the guidance. If this seems strange to anyone, it means that he has not understood what Bhagwan was in his lifetime, that he identifies the Guru with the body. It is sometimes asked how a Jivan Mukt continues to guide disciples after death, when he has merged in the Absolute, the Self of all. But the Jivan Mukt is already consciously one with the Absolute, the Self of all, while still embodied. If this is not incompatible with initiation and guidance while he wears a body, it is not afterwards. Death makes no difference to him, no change in his state. There is nothing more to be acquired because he is that now. There is nothing to be lost because he has already completely surrendered the ego. P. Banerjee asked Bhagwan what is the difference between Jivan Mukt, that is realization while in the body, and Videha Mukti, realization after death. B. There is no difference. For those who ask, it is said, a jnani with the body is a Jivan Mukta, and he attains Videha Mukti when he sheds the body. But this difference exists only for the onlooker, not for the jnani. His state is the same before and after the body is dropped. We think of the jnani as a human form or as being in that form, but he knows that he is the Self, the one reality, which is both inside and out, and which is not bounded by any form or shape. There is a verse in the Bhagavata. Here Bhagwan quoted the verse in Tamil, which says, just as a man who is drunk is not conscious whether his upper cloth is on his body or has slipped away from it, the jnani is hardly conscious of his body, and it makes no difference to him whether the body remains or has dropped off. He did not encourage curiosity and seldom answered questions about the state of the jnani or the realized man. But when asked whether the jnani continues to perform a function after the death of the body, I have heard him reply briefly that in some cases he may. Also, he himself confirmed what his disciples know now from experience, that the Guru may continue to give guidance after the death of the body when no longer in human form. Dr. Masalawala, retired Chief Medical Officer of Bhopal, who has been here for over a month and is in temporary charge of the Ashramam Hospital in the absence of Dr. K. Shiva Rao, put the following questions to Bhagwan and received the following answers. D. Bhagwan says, the influence of the jnani steals into the devotee in silence. Bhagwan also says, contact with great men, exalted souls, is one efficacious means of realizing one's true being. B. Yes. What is the contradiction? Jnani, great men, exalted souls. Does he differentiate between them? Thereupon I said, no. B. Contact with them is good. They will work through silence. By speaking, their power is reduced. Speech is always less powerful than silence. So silent contact is the best. D. Does the contact continue even after the dissolution of the physical body of the jnani, or only so long as he is in flesh and blood? B. The Guru is not in the physical form, so contact will remain even after his physical form vanishes. He who has earned the grace of the Guru will undoubtedly be saved and never forsaken, just as the prey that has fallen into the tiger's jaw will never be allowed to escape. Remembering this, perhaps, some devotees complained, when the death of his body was imminent, that he was abandoning them, and asked what they could do without his continued guidance. He answered briefly, "You attach too much importance to the body." The implication was clear. The Guru is the same whether he wears a body or not, and his devotees have since found it to be so. Having dealt with the need to pass from theory to practice, the possibility of practicing in the conditions of the modern world without any outward observances, and the necessity for a Guru, the next two chapters will deal with the forms of practice that Bhagwan practiced. His prescribing them openly is in itself remarkable. In their public writings and utterances, the spiritual masters of all religions have dealt mainly with theory and said little or nothing about the practical discipline they enjoined. The reason for this is obvious. It is that, as Bhagwan explains in the story of the king and his minister quoted earlier in this chapter, a technique of spiritual training can be legitimately used and be effective for good only when the use of it has been authorized by one duly qualified. And yet, Bhagwan himself openly expounded the methods he enjoined, both in speech and writing. Most of the books on which the present exposition is based were written and published during his lifetime, and he always showed interest in them and often recommended a questioner to turn to one of them for his answer. Even when it became clear that the life of his body was approaching its end, he continued to show interest in their editing and publication. Why did he permit this, when he was insistent that no technique is valid without the authorization of the Guru? The only answer is the one given above. Physical death made no difference. If the Mukta can be a Guru before death, so can he also after death. He becomes no more a Mukta by dying. The path that had been made open by his grace to those who turned to him was not for his lifetime only, or for those few only who could approach him physically. He said, "They say that I am dying, but I am not going away. Where could I go? I am here."